All right, good evening, lords and lady. We are on week 2 of season 3 of the Dynasty Game of Thrones podcast. This is the Iron Bank with our commissioner, House Dondarrion. Lewis, congratulations on being 2-0.
Thank you, and to you as well. I believe you're 2-0. You are 2-0, so congrats to you as well.
Yeah, although I'm pretty sure you've outscored me. We can talk about this in a little bit here, but I think the balance of power may be shifting in the Fire Conference in terms of really where the tougher divisions are. But again, like I said, we can touch on that a little bit later. But there's definitely some moving day going on as we complete the first round of divisional matchups. I think we're going to do what we do every week. Go over some of the games from last week, look at some of the games we like this week, and then maybe spend some time with some trades because I think Tyrell turned over his entire team again. So I know that happens every 3 weeks or so, but might as well spend some time on that or any other trades of note. Lewis, any place you want to kick us off?
No, I don't think so. I think I don't remember. I've been doing this for too long that it blends together, but I don't remember a better start in fantasy in a long time. Like in terms of like everybody scoring points, everybody like these first 2 weeks have been really, really good fantasy football weeks.
Well, I mean, it's been expected that there was going to be an offensive explosion here. I mean, you're not even allowed to tackle the quarterback anymore, so obviously you're going to pass for more yards. We just had 2 really good classes of running back come in, so of course you're going to run for more yards. And again, it's impossible to tackle anybody regardless. So,
I mean, we've had week 1. We were what, a point, 2 points, 3 points short of breaking the total points record in the league for a week, and then this week we break it. I mean, it's unbelievable. And there were some crooked numbers put up here. I mean, 143, 165, 152, 135, 129, 130, 131. There's 2 131s. I mean, there was a lot of a lot of points scored. There's a lot of really good teams. There's a lot of really good teams here.
Well, yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I have to, look at the stats to kind of be a little bit more cohesive about it. But I think, a lot more points are getting scored. I think I was watching Red Zone. They said 51 touchdowns were scored in the 1 o'clock games this week. So that seems like a high number. And when you have that many touchdowns being scored, there's a lot of fantasy points being scored. But either way, point records are likely to be broken this year. And as you mentioned, and probably a good place to start as any, House Targaryen takes down the points record for the league, I believe, with a new record of 195.66, which I think we remarked in chat. The funny part about this was the only thing that kept him from actually taking the points title was Gronk scoring 3. And when you look at that team, it's like, all right, the quarterbacks are pretty good. Gordon's an RB1, but he's not the best RB1. And those receivers are like top 5. And Gronk is the huge advantage he's got here. And then Gronk's the reason he doesn't break the record, break 200. So better luck next week, but still pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, extremely impressive. 100. I think at one point it was I don't know if it was ever projected. I saw it at 208 something rather. I don't know if it was much higher than that at any given point, but I think I saw it at 208 and I was like, holy shit. A lot of points. It's a pretty solid team, but it's one of those teams where I feel like it's going to have its weeks, but it's also going to you don't know, Ben Roethlisberger could have a bad week. Matt Ryan could have a bad week. Watkins blew up against the Steelers. Keelan Cole had a couple ridiculous catches, but it's one of those things where it's a really good team. I don't think we're going to be scoring 195 points every week. Probably back down to the 125 point range next week.
True. Well, again, and the other side of this is beyond having just these ridiculous point spreads where, again, you got to feel for House fell because 117 still probably would have beaten about half the houses in the league this week. We also had some really close matches. Nothing of the sort, I think, last week between you and Swan. But again, a 1.4 point win for House Greyjoy over House Malister. So beyond just a lot of points being scored, some really close matchups too.
Yeah, and in terms of all these other matchups, I don't think any other outcomes surprised me. I think the big numbers surprised me, but I thought everybody that was supposed to win won this week. I'm running through really quickly. I think the only game that I know that I missed in terms of trying to call last week was Banefort, because I have his pick and was trying to be greedy and pick Payne, and that backfired. And then, I mean, if I didn't have the pick, I'd have picked Banefort. But the only one that really was a shocker to me was the House Reed, House Stark matchup.
Yeah.
I think I was leaning either way. I said both these teams are kind of bottom tier teams. Reed had the better quarterback duo, so I was like, that gives him the advantage. And he just got stomped. So I'm not sure what. And after we did the podcast, he made a trade, so maybe we can talk about that when we do our trade talk. We'll start there. Because right when we got off the podcast last week, he pushed it. What I would call a win now trade. I mean, he acquired Randall Cobb, who put up 20-some points, almost 30 points in week 1. He acquired Sonny Michel, and I don't know if there was another player involved, but he definitely made a move, at least I thought, to go win now. Maybe it's a win later move because Michel's a rookie and he's looking for somebody for next year, but I don't know.
Could also be that he's a Packers.
We'll discuss it.
These things.
Yeah, so we'll discuss that. But that was the really only shocker for me. I mean, the game didn't really matter because I don't think either one of those teams is very good. But nonetheless, Reed got blown out. He's terrible and probably should rebuild. But yeah, we can run through the rest of these matchups real quick. I don't know mine because I'm probably logged in as commissioner. Mine are all out over the place in terms of there being no order. I think they're just in the order of what franchise I put into MFL first when I invited everybody.
Yeah.
So they're all over the place, but I'll try to group them up here. So we just talked about Reed and Stark. Stark got the win there by a little over 40 points. It wasn't close. Forrester and Bolton played. Bolton made the terrible trade of moving Julio Jones. It netted him Mike Williams and Chris Godwin. They both scored, but nothing to be too really excited about, I think. I mean, you got those two guys. He had his tight end. He still doesn't have a running back. He traded his running back, and I don't know. So we'll see. He's in a tough spot. He does have a lot of picks, but again, I actually wanted to bring this up. I was thinking about this earlier because we were talking about, I don't know if it was House Egan or it was House Baylor, somebody. We were talking about somebody and the number of picks they have in the rebuild. And Wode had commented, I'm trying to do my House Harding rebuild. I've rebuilt already. Wode's rebuilt already. And then, of course, Harding rebuilt after season 1. The funny thing is, I don't know if you've caught on to this, but a lot of these teams that had acquired picks and rebuilt didn't really use any of these picks. Wode used one of his picks. Harding didn't use a single one. He traded them all for veterans. I didn't use a single one. So really, out of the 3 teams that have really completely torn things down and rebuilt to get back up to, you're talking, I put up 143, Wode put up 129.24, and Harding put up 165. You're talking about pretty massive rebuilds in which only one rookie was taken that's impacting this roster. So it's funny to me that some of these teams are, I don't know, maybe playing like they're actually going to draft these rookies and get younger and get better and rebuild. So it's always one of those just interesting things. Now I forgot what I was talking about. Bolton. So I think that's what Bolton's planning to do, but there's not enough. If he brings in 3 or 4 rookies, top rookies, like first-round rookies, there's just not enough on this roster to be productive next year either.
Well, yeah, maybe the right thing to do here. I think I agree with you that if you can kind of help to help the form. Maybe it just makes sense going division by division here and kind of saying where do things stand after 2 weeks, because I think you've got a point. Bolton's surprised that he's 1-1. Probably isn't going to hold. But on the other hand, Stark, with the upset win over Reed, I think he's got, I'm not sure if it's Forrester or Bolton next week. But look, I mean, he could very well come out of this 2-1 and be potential contender in that wild card. Although his trade bait still says he's looking to rebuild. So I think we're starting to get to that point in the season. I think we'll definitely hit it next week when a couple of teams are making that decision. It's, am I doing a win now move or am I not? Again, Reed being 0-2 and doing win now moves is one thing, but on the other hand, he could still continue to be bad, have the picks he has, and then rebuild around his 2 quarterbacks. So,
well, maybe we'll do that at the end instead of doing trades, since it's mostly Tyrell, unless we want to do trades. We can finish out the results from this past week, gloss over next week's matchups, and then we can hit kind of how things have panned out in the standings so far.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Maybe that's the route we'll go. Because that's probably more interesting than having us all say, oh, Tyrell, you started really good in trading, and then it went in the shitter, as always. So anyways, we did Reed and Stark. We did Bolton and Forrester. That leaves us with Brotherhood and Tully. No surprises there. Brotherhood is probably going to put up 50 or 60 points a week. At best, he gets blown out of the water by 80. It's not close. House Tully had an okay. He could have had more points. I'm not really sure why he's starting Peyton Barber. We haven't seen much passing in Tampa Bay the last 2 weeks. So Peyton Barber probably has to come out of that lineup. I'm surprised that, a Dorsett or a Josh maybe will.
Lou, you still there? We may have gotten a freeze from Lou here.
Josh Gordon that froze, I think. So I don't know if you can still hear me.
There you go. Okay, sorry. I lost you for about 30 seconds there.
Yeah, I see that. My computer froze. So I don't know what I was talking about. But I think I was talking about Tully. Don't know why he started Peyton Barber. He hasn't done anything. Tampa Bay's throwing the ball. I would have thought maybe a Kieran Johnson or maybe you get a Dorsett after you see the Dorsett put up, pretty good numbers week 1, followed up with okay week 2. So I thought maybe one of those 2 guys would start. But I definitely think maybe next week you're looking at maybe Josh Gordon entering his lineup here. I would probably sub Peyton Barber out. But yeah, an okay total for House Tully, 130.78 points. Quarterback play is still a major issue here. But all around, the rest of the team had a really, really solid week.
Yeah, again, not much to add there. I think the big surprise there was I think everyone was rushing, at least in the redraft waiver wires, to add Johnny Smith and Ian Thomas, or even in some of the more shallow Dynasty wires with Greg Olsen and Walker going out. And I think Thomas had like 2 points and Johnny putting up 0. Was kind of a surprise. Even with Gabbert playing in Tennessee, you think, hey, second string, there's going to be a connection there. And really, a 0 from Jonnu definitely surprised me.
Yeah, well, a 1.6 for Bradford, too. I made me chuckle. I don't know who tweeted it now. It went in and out of my head, but somebody said something like, in week 1, Lamar Jackson came in mop-up duty and has more points fantasy-wise from those couple drives than Bradford does on the season through 2 full weeks of not missing a snap. So I thought that was funny. Arizona's in some big-time trouble. And again, I'll just reiterate this. you went with the wrong quarterback. There should have been a Bradford and Rosen thing because Rosen's going to play sooner or later. Then I think that's better. I mean, that's better for Arizona. Sam Bradford looks washed up.
Well, again, at the end of the day, I think we've had this conversation before, and I'm going to make Eric happy by saying at the end of the day here, Brotherhood's not competing this year. I know it. It. Everyone knows it. Whether it's Jackson or Rosen, whoever he thinks is the better quarterback is who he's got to take for next year. So I'm okay with the Jackson, but again, I agree. If you've got Bradford, Rosen's the right thing to do, and the few places I still have Bradford, I'm trying to get Rosen, but that's kind of hard these days. But enough about this game.
Big one, Greyjoy and Mallister. This is one that I think we all went Greyjoy last week. You might have picked Mallister. I can't remember. But I think the notion was, all right, we're going to go Greyjoy, but we're going to be cautiously optimistic about the upside of House Mallister. And it showed a little bit this week. Jordan Howard really let him down. I thought, at the end of the game there, who was it that threw? What the hell? I can't remember how it ended. But I thought Jordan Howard, here we go to Jordan Howard time. He's going to milk out the clock, get some yards. That ended up not happening. So Mallister lost by 1 point, whatever it was. But the tight end killed him, and I said that, and I've been saying that. I said he's got to find a tight end. He's got these young. Gerald Everett, when he got drafted into the league, a lot of people were like, "Oh, there's McVay's Jordan Reed." It's not happening. He doesn't use the tight end, and I don't know if that's his scheming out there, if that's just Goff's preference to not want to use the tight end, and his safety blanket is Gurley and not a tight end. Because again, you look at the running backs that were, where the hell did McVay come from?
Oh, Washington.
I lost my mind. Yeah, there we go. Washington. I was like, what the hell is the team name? Washington. They had guys like Alfred Morris, Rob Kelly. I'm trying to think of who was there before. So not really too many guys. Thompson came on towards the end there, but McVay might have been already on the way out the door. So really no pass catchers at the running back position. So that blanket was Jordan Reed, the tight end. So I think it's probably about time to lower expectations on the tight ends from the Rams. And all the other tight ends on this team are not good. Swoop is a free agent. Lewis hasn't – I don't even know if he's playing. He might be like the third or fourth tight end on Green Bay at this point. I think it's Graham, Kendricks, then Lewis. I don't know if there's another one. Eric or what's his face. Jeremy would be great for them to chime in and say if there's another tight end there. But Mercedes Lewis is at least the third tight end on that team. The rest of them, Demetrius Harris, Eric Tomlinson, and then Jeff, whatever his name is, Hurman or Horman, whatever his name is. Just no options there at tight end. And if you just had something, really anything at tight end this week, you get the win. And honestly, that's like a season-changing win there if he pulled that one off. You go through – I don't know who he played week one, but it was one of those other two. He comes out of his – he came out of his Division 3-0, looking pretty good. I'll have to look and see who they play week 4 in terms of what division they play. So it would be Beyond the Wall. So not like – too tough, not as tough as it once was, but definitely think he could have gotten 2 wins there, and you're at a 5-win total at the halfway point through the season. Pretty good chances to win 9-10 games and maybe sneak into a playoff spot. So I thought that interesting that he kind of was patiently riding this one out. He has a couple of picks to move. I don't think he's going to move them and hold on to them and just ride with what he's got, but I don't know. It's one of those things where I would think if you kind of made the move this week, it really, really puts you in a really good spot to line up down the stretch.
Well, I'd say this. To your first point, clearly it's not the same situation with Everett getting the targets in Los Angeles. Like, again, I'm not sure whether it's a preference thing, or I think Everett was held out of the game last week, and then Higbee actually got a good piece of the targeting and action this week. So they may be bringing Everett along slowly. So by week 4 or 5, we may be seeing a different tune. But also, I remember someone made this observation maybe a year or two ago. The last thing you add is the tight end. So he may be reaching that point, like you said. But the other thing that Malister has been very particular on is only trading for guys when he's trading out of depth. So looking at his roster, if you get a guy like Jerron Brown or Wendell Smallwood or Joshua Dobbs, that he would trade for a tight end. I couldn't see him trading a Sterling Shepard or breaking down a main piece for him based off of everything he's done with his rebuild.
Right.
So again, I think he's interested in starting to do better and being in the conversation this year. But I think based off the way he's built his team and even looking across the board at what he's assembled, he's expecting, I think, to be a top 10 pick again. By a top 10, I mean miss the playoffs. I don't mean
right. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, okay.
So, again, like you said, things could have changed if he beats Greyjoy, and then he's got himself in a bulwark situation from last year.
Right. But I mean, there's just there's a couple, because again, Delaney Walker. Can you still hear me? Did I cut out again?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Because my computer started to look like it was going to freeze there again. I was in the same situation, kind of, but I had Eric Ebron as my backup. But Delaney Walker goes down. I need a tight end. I'm kind of feeling out tight end a little bit. Not as rushed in this league in particular because I have Ebron there, but I kind of was feeling out the tight end market, and it is steeper than what it usually is here. That's probably because I've rubbed my mouth about tight ends are cheap, and now everybody's kind of sticking it back to me. But there are definitely some older guys that probably don't fit what Wood wants to do, but if you can buy a cheap Jesse James, I mean. Yeah, he had a monster week last week, but that's not going to skyrocket his value to where you can't afford him or he's like I don't think any Jesse. We'll put it this way, very plain and simple. I don't think any Jesse James owners are going to sell him as a top 5 fantasy tight end or a top 10 or even a top 12. I think his price is still going to be about where it would have been to get him beforehand, if that makes sense. You just roll the dice, and so. He has a really a decent floor. He's going to score probably 4 or 5, 6 points a game, but then he's now showed you this ridiculous ceiling. I don't think he'll ever touch that again. But a player like that, or a player like Ben Watson, or like one of those older guys that could have a couple weeks to put together, and that's all he really needs was a couple of weeks from a tight end. It's getting 3 points from a tight end or 4 points is not enough. There's one other team we'll figure out when we get there that has no tight end either, and it's one of those things that's like, what are you doing? Because I think your team's trying to win, but your tight end scores like 1.85 points between the first 2 weeks, and that's terrible. Anyways, enough about that. Massive matchup between Harding and Royce. This one was tough. This was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Both teams put up a shit ton of points, 165-33 to 152-16. Can't really fault. I'm looking at Evan to see if maybe you start somebody else.
Nope.
There's really no faulting what he started there. I don't know what Harding's doing. He subbed in Flacco, rolled with Flacco over Prescott. It was the right decision. But Prescott also outscored Russell Wilson. So his quarterbacks are now kind of all out of sorts there, so he's got to figure that out. David Johnson had a terrible week, only 5.85 points, but the rest of the team just carried him, 165 points. And this is coming off of a week where I said, on paper the team's scary, but in performance it's really not as daunting as what it used to be, and he followed up week 1 with 165 points.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's kind of funny about this is, first off, you've seen the David Johnson run chart thus far, right?
Yes.
That's hilarious to me. I don't think he received a single target in the passing game, and all of his runs were inside. So for the sheer number of David Johnson I own across a ton of other leagues, I am petrified of this new coaching staff and offensive coordinator situation, especially until they get Rosen in there. But even that, if you look at someone like David Johnson and your plan is to run him up the middle, I'm worried about everyone I have on Arizona, which unfortunately is a couple of contributors on my team too. So there's that, which I think made this a little bit closer. That's the funny part about this too, is we kind of made a big hullabaloo this offseason about when Harding got DJ, and then same story, Royce getting Crowder. Crowder is one of those guys on House Royce that I'm sure those of you who try to trade with him. Everybody is completely off limits when it comes to Royce, but Crowder especially. He needs 150% overpay before he would move a guy like Crowder. So the fact that these are the two guys that ended up being the kind of slow players that Harding survived and Royce lost because of definitely is interesting to me. But when you look at the standings, I think they're within a point of each other in overall points scored so far. So round two of this is going to definitely matter.
Yeah. I think you said David Johnson in other leagues. I bought David Johnson in another league, and it was Michael Thomas for David Johnson and Kenny Golladay. So I'm not really entirely thrilled about that. I'm glad that I was able to add Golladay to the deal. But really not thrilled about it because I was kind of doing the same thing that Harding's done here. I was pairing David Johnson and Gurley together. And it's kind of backfired slightly, but that's all right. It's a long season. I'm sure they'll figure out David Johnson, but it's also, you said last week that Matt Patricia is probably on the hot seat. Was he the one that you said probably now has the best odds of getting fired?
Although Hugh Jackson just continuously.
Yeah, right. Hugh Jackson. I don't know if it was you or somebody else's. Well, Matt Patricia might have thrown himself into that ring. I watched a little bit of the Detroit thing. The first half of it was terrible. The second half, they got their shit together. I think they'll be all right. The team that I don't think is going to be all right is Arizona. And that dude there, if he doesn't get it figured out, he's probably going to be in trouble because they went – how far have they fallen? Same thing with Pete Carroll. I don't think Seattle will ever fire Pete Carroll, though. I think he's going to be one of those guys that goes out on his own terms. But those two teams, sheesh, really bad.
I honestly think so. Hot take, maybe prediction here. Probably not that hot, but I think we end up with a Mariucci Owens type situation in Seattle where I forget where it was. One of the people I follow on Twitter, but had a kind of frame by frame account of a couple of plays during the Monday night game last night where Wilson got a play from Schottenheimer, looked at the defense, audibled, got the first down, and then got the next play, audibled because he audibled and checked out of it again. Carroll called timeout and Wilson was pissed off. So I think they're in a situation where, Carroll keeps thinking that they need to be a run-first team, and Wilson realizes the only way they're going to have a chance and not be in 3rd and 8 and getting his ass kicked by Khalil Mack every 5 minutes is if they, are a little more aggressive with the ball, which is what they did in the 4th quarter yesterday. So something's going to have to give there, whether Carroll gets flexible, which has never happened before, or Wilson just kind of rides it out. But there's a divorce coming there in Seattle, and it's either going to be Wilson gets traded next offseason or Carroll's gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure unless the front office can figure out a way to fix it, which at this point I don't think they can. They've had several years to fix it, and the team's only gotten worse, and then the defense now is terrible.
Well, the way it usually works is usually you get the chance to change coordinators, and if you change coordinators and it doesn't work, the coach goes. So It was Bevel last year. Bevel got replaced with Schottenheimer, and if it doesn't get better, Carroll goes. So I think we don't go into 2019 with both those teams, both or maybe either of them on Seattle.
Yeah, so we'll see. Definitely worth monitoring because you're definitely wasting Russell Wilson's good years that he's got left with the offensive line, and not all of that's on Carroll. A lot of it's on the GM because he's had how many years to fix the offensive line? It's terrible, and now your defense is also terrible, and your wide receivers and running backs are terrible. So that roster kind of went to shit very quickly. But the play calling and play calling in general around the league in the NFL has been really bad. There's been a lot of teams where it's like, what the fuck are you doing? But anyways, yeah, I could see Carroll being done there. I just always viewed him as not in the light of a Belichick, but always like, for whatever reason, even when he was at USC, people were like, this dude's a god. He can do whatever he wants. And so that's kind of why I think that he'll stay in Seattle, because who else is going to do anything better than what that guy's doing? But they definitely need to at least just get the change of scenery. So not really get rid of him because he's doing bad, but just because you would need to move him to do a change of scenery to kind of get a new scheme in there, get a new fresh feel for everything. And that's probably the only way that Seattle gets back on top of that division.
Maybe after Texas or whoever has to rebuild quickly this year, he does a Carroll again and heads back to college or Saban, whatever you want to call it, and fixes the problem for him. But anyways, we've talked enough about coaches. Let's move on to the next one.
Baelish and Egan, not going to talk about this one because it was terrible. Egan, again, for the second straight week with the invalid lineup. I talked to the whatever squad that I have, small council, they're taking care of that. So hopefully we don't have a third straight instance in where we can't figure out what a valid lineup is.
When did Cameron Meredith get ruled out? I saw him get ruled out, I think, during injuries at noon. But was that something in advance? Or?
Yeah, he was – this particular lineup was set at 11:30. I would assume Cam Meredith was healthy and active again, that he was probably out. Probably the first fantasy show comes on at 11, so he was at least by 11. He was probably 100% already designated as out. I can't guarantee that or double check that, but fairly certain that he was marked out very, very early because he was healthy and active week 1, healthy and active week 2. And those inactives usually come in very early. You're usually like those minor ones are out ahead of time, and you don't get the actual last second ones from guys that have been predetermined that they're out. It's usually someone that shows up on the injury report on a Friday or Saturday that ends up being designated as out. Children and White Walkers. Children, I don't know if we went across the board with Children last week, but Children gets back on the board, starts over fresh, gets his first win here. Again, not really anything too like exciting because it's really 3 guys carried him, mainly Kelsey and his 28 points. Stafford had a really good game. The rest of the team Dak Prescott still doesn't have his stuff together, and Eric seems sold on not moving Prescott, which again, that window looks like it's probably gone because he's no longer in the top discussion for Dynasty quarterbacks.
Frankly, he's on the other side, which is something that interests players like me. I love to buy low on people, and I've been trying to buy him up anywhere I can at this point because I think he's got nothing but good things to come, although Dallas is absolutely dysfunctional.
Right.
My quick thing about this, which I think is going to be really interesting, is I think it was either last year or the year before, I wrote a blog post about trade styles of different people in the league. And Eric, from what I've found, likes to kind of lay back and let trades come to him. Although I think he's got a couple of players at this point that makes a lot of sense for him to be aggressive to try and shop, namely Carlos Hyde. I think he's got some interest around the league. He tried to sell him in the offseason and didn't get what he wanted. I'm really interested to see if he's going to get up and get moving on dealing the guys he wants to move for depth now while they have the value that he wants to sell them at, rather than the lay back. Again, it's a little bit of Tiger changing his stripes, but I think it's a really good opportunity for him to do so. Again, the stat line isn't great. Hyde averaged less than 3 yards a carry, had 1 reception without that touchdown. It's a terrible day. But again, based off of the state of the running back position right now, you could probably get that first-round valuation for Hyde if he goes out and gets it. It's not going to come to him.
Right. I think, and I mean, I was sending him first. I know for a fact I was at a first and a second, and probably a player at Hyde on the off season, and he wanted none of it. Don't know why. Couldn't tell you. It was an overpaid time. And then now it's one of those things where it's like, okay, good luck. You're probably stuck with him unless you're willing to eat a little bit. But there are some people that want him. But yeah, and there's some other guys on here. You look at the window of opportunity that he missed. Peterman had a window where you sell Peterman to somebody that doesn't have a quarterback, especially when you're like he is set with Stafford and Prescott. There's some other guys I was looking through that had a window. I think Ben Watson had a short window where you could have sold him. There was a window where you could have sold Virgil Green when they were pumping him up in the offseason. So now I clicked on Virgil Green, and it's taking me there. Damn it. But yeah, so definitely some moves to be made there because I don't think the team is it's a solid team, but I don't think that at this point it was like where we were last year with Eric, where we were like, okay, here's a championship contender. Good team, don't think it's a championship contender. So take that for what it's worth. And then really interesting. Oops, sorry. Really interesting on the other side for White Walkers that he has Aaron Rodgers on his bench. So he subbed out Rodgers with the injury from last week. Now Rodgers, there's not big enough points to make it to catch up the spread here. But there's a lot of points on this bench. A lot of depth on this team as well. There's some old players. I'm almost wondering because this now puts White Walkers at 1-1. I can't remember. I'm going to click and look and see if last week's was who he played last week. So he played Night's Watch. Then
he played Stark.
He played Night's Watch.
Because they'll be on the wall.
Yeah, Night's Watch. So the other worst team. So he's looking at 1-2. He put up 123 last week, which I think is his best case scenario. He puts up 107 or about 100 points. Night's Watch might get him the next time around because Night's Watch is around 97, 80 points, somewhere in there. So there's always a chance that he can get upset by Night's Watch. But it's one of those I wonder if he takes the brief time that he does have, because he does have some depth here. There's some guys that are scoring points. Josh Allen on his bench, Aaron Rodgers on his bench. He's got 4 quarterbacks. Moncrief had a big week. Boyd had a big week. John Brown had a big week. And then all the guys that he kind of has in the starting lineup are good. I wonder if it's a very short window for White Walkers to turn around and try to move some of these, because his team's really, really old. I mean, Brees, Smith, Peterson, Hogan, Demaryius Thomas, LaFell, who else? Edelman.
Well, I mean, let's touch on Free Folk versus Night Watch real fast. I think you might see there's some, pardon the term, but a chink in the armor here. If we move over to Free Folk Night Watch real fast, Free Folk gets the win, but let's take a look at who he's starting. So with Freeman out and Ingram suspended, Corey Grant and Jakeem Grant get started for Free Folk. And it looks like he's probably not going to be able to start anyone other than those guys next week. So if Fournette comes back, Grant drops by 10 points. Grant, again, I think got a lot of his points from punt return work or from special teams work. So there's a real situation where Free Folk may not break 100 next week.
Yeah, I think Josh Gordon goes into this lineup next week.
You think he's going to start immediately?
In fantasy or for the Patriots?
For the Patriots.
Yeah. I think he'll be ready to go next week. He'll be limited, but he'll be out there, and him being out there is a bigger fantasy threat than either Corey Grant or Jakeem Grant. I don't know what picks he has left here. Maybe you pick up a guy because there's a couple mid-level. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that are trying to sell mid-level guys, like exactly what I'm trying to tell White Walkers to sell, like sell some of these mid-level older guys. Those guys are cheap, but there's no way like White Walkers like dumbly tripped into Adrian Peterson. Dude was a free agent, comes back, he's still rostered, goes to a good spot. Now he's played okay, not great, not amazing, not bad, but okay. So now he's worth something, not a whole lot, but something. And you sell him for that something before he goes back to irrelevance. Remember, he's only got a 1-year deal in Washington. Washington has guys still lined up there.
Mm-hmm.
And after next season, Peterson's going to be, what, 30? I don't even know. Where'd he go?
Might as well be 40.
Yeah, might as well be 40. Clicked on him to see where he went. 34. So anyways, we kind of hit on Free Folk and Night's Watch there. Free Folk won with two shitty players in there. Really no depth. Maybe he moves Mark Ingram. I don't see why not. He got Mark Ingram pretty cheaply at the deadline last year. I think he only gave up a first. He might have given up a second too, but I think it was only a first. Pretty cheap for Mark Ingram, especially with the season that he put up last year. Maybe there's a team that's middle of the pack that thinks with Mark Ingram's my next piece if I can hold on until he gets back. So maybe there's an easy move there that somebody's willing to give something that'll help Free Folk now and in return get a Mark Ingram from later.
Speaking of which, right when you said that, Tyrell just added Free Folk, so more trade conversations there. But I think if you haven't been added by Tyrell at this point, you're in the minority.
Very likely. That brings us to my matchup. I beat Swan pretty easily, 40 points. I picked myself to win this last week. Not out of just because it's my team I'm picking me. I really thought I had a chance to win last week. I thought it would be close. It wasn't. My quarterback play was exceptional. Thielen late was exceptional. Ebron spot start, getting another touchdown was great. The only problem is my bench is still going off. One of the things I've acquired, and I think you talked, I think it was you or it was Greyjoy. Somebody said something about my depth last week on the podcast. I've acquired a lot of it, and now the problem is starting the right amounts of it. My bench went off week 1 as well, and then week 2 I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4 or 5 guys there. I'm too far away from the screen count. 4 or 5 guys that are double digits. 3 or 4 of them are 14, 15 points or more. So there's a lot of points on my bench still. I've made some subs, so we'll get it when we talk about next week's schedule. I've made some substitutions to kind of line up better with my opponent next week, so I won't be rolling out this exact lineup. Running back's still a spot. I think the running back's a spot for everybody. We're outside of Kamara, Gurley, Zeke. I don't know if there's anybody else. Chris Thompson, but I wouldn't put him as that top tier where you're oh yeah, I'm buying Chris Thompson because he's going to be my RB1 this year. I think RB's been a little rough. We talked about how it's been a really good fantasy thing, but it's been mostly wide receivers. The top tier wide receivers have been phenomenal thus far. Running backs, not so much. I think they'll get there, but they're just a little slower this year, and that's the case with mine. My running backs, I don't think, other than Alex Collins had a 1-yard touchdown, I don't think any of my running backs have scored a touchdown. Corey Clement, my bad. Corey Clement got one last week. Other than that, I don't think any of my running backs have a touchdown.
Well, yeah, I mean, just kind of looking at the top of my head, the top running backs, top 4 running backs are above 50. Everyone else is below. If I go to receiver, actually, it's only the top 3 wide receivers are above 50. So, look, I mean, you get the right guy, you got the right guy. But an interesting start so far. I think definitely this year saw a shift back towards the running back being the premium position to get early on and invest in. But receiver maybe making a comeback. Who knows? From this perspective, yeah, definitely a big win for you. I think I would probably pick Swan just based off of some of the matchups. I'm not sure why Benjamin Garcon are in there, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I said when I had said something to her when I went to collect my toe picture. She said something like, "Oh, I let you in," and I was like, "No, you fucking didn't. Shut up." But then I kind of was joking, so that explains why Kelvin Benjamin was in there. For a while, Benjamin had no points. He got the garbage touchdown at the very end of the game, which gave him some. So it was actually a bigger spread because Benjamin had that 0. He ended up with 9.4. So I really was up 50-something most of the day. I mean, it was blowout most of the day. But, yeah, I don't know what Benjamin was doing in there. I'm not sure about Garcon. Kittle was in there, which is fine. Delaney Walker's hurt for her. But I definitely – I mean, looking at her bench, there's a whole bunch of donuts there. Nobody else scored. Jordy Nelson's not startable. She should have sold him in the offseason when people were asking. Emmanuel Sanders is probably the start. I would have definitely started Emmanuel Sanders over Kelvin Benjamin. I don't know about deciding Kelvin Benjamin and Pierre Garcon. That's probably splitting hairs there. But Emmanuel Sanders definitely needs to get away into this lineup. I could also see her making a next week an overstep and sticking Calvin Ridley in there, thinking, oh, there's 18.2 points. He's really good. And stick him in there. I think he only had 3 or 4 catches this week. He had none the last week. So you're talking about a guy that's averaging 1.5 catches a week. But we'll see.
So yeah, 7 targets so far. It comes down to, again, the root cause here. I made the comment about Jonah before. Swan's the same kind of situation here. Like to sit back and let trades come to her, but again, usually doesn't like to make them. The only way this team is either going to be competitive this year or next year is if she goes and gets that deal. And that deal is going to have to include, and again, I just looking at this roster, the only way she can make this work is if she breaks up Kamara or if she sells Bell. That's the only way I see her either rebuilding next year or being competitive this year. Because again, like she needs multiple pieces in multiple places. You know, she's in a good shape at quarterback. As long as she hangs on to Kamara and breaks up, say, Bell, she's in a good spot at running back. But she needs to sell Bell for like multiple wide receiver pieces. And there are enough teams that are tanking at this point that selling them Bell makes a ton of sense. They don't get points for the first 10 to 12 weeks, which is our regular season. So at the end of the day, they get to take Bell wherever he lands next year and benefit based off of that. And you get 2 startable receivers. So again, the trade is there to be made. But like you said, Ridley's had 7 targets. There are plenty of receiving options out there who have had more than 7 targets in one game. Sanders and Thomas is just the Denver passing game is just boggling my mind right now. Just because, again, you're expecting Thomas and Sanders to get plenty of work, but then Thomas, I think, put up 5 points this week. Sanders put up the 12.6, but because he had, I think, a big reception that he took for like 60-some yards. So, again, it's a weird situation. So
yeah, they didn't play very well. The whole team didn't play very well until the end. They snuck out a win there. Not something I look for them. I think that they're going to be all right moving forward, Sanders and Thomas. I think they'll be okay. So I think Sanders is a must play. I agree that if the team is actually going to go anywhere, it's a rebuild team. There's not much on this team other than Kamara and Bell. You're getting a wasted season out of Bell. He'll be 20. I don't know if he's going to be 26 or 27. He's probably on a new team next year, which means it's probably going to be a bad team next year, which means he probably isn't going to put – I mean, there's still a chance he puts up a ton of fantasy points, but not at the rate he was in Pittsburgh. The only other option is to take one of these quarterbacks and break down a quarterback and say, okay, well, I'll trade Tom Brady, but you give me some worse quarterback, but I need a wide receiver upgrade. And that stuff's not going to happen. She doesn't trade. So this is going to be one of those teams that will ride off the cliff, unfortunately. And so at 0-2, I thought she'd be in the basement of the division, but apparently she's outscored Fell by like 0.5 point. So Fell is in the basement currently. I don't expect it to be like that. I expect Swan to be in the basement and probably have a top 5 pick next year.
So, fun fact before we move on here, I did make fun of Ham for having Jakeem Grant in his starting lineup. He's on Swan's taxi squad, so there you go.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I was going to mention it, but I forgot about it. This is one, like, you want your team to be good. You want to have a good thing. And I say the same thing to Egan and a couple other people. Manage your fucking rosters. Orleans Darkwa is not in the fucking league. Akram Wadley is not in the fucking league. Kenny Britt is not in the fucking league. Simony Cobbs is not in the fucking league. Drop them and get somebody that's active. Get somebody that has a point. Like, you do that and you just pick up random people. One of the things I do is go through and see who the highest rated rookie is in MFL system, and I add that dude and put him on taxi. That's why I have some Atlanta wide receivers. He was the highest ranked guy I could find, and I put him there just in case. I have a couple other guys, but they're in other leagues. And I don't want to say anything because I want the people who are going to snatch them. But it's one of those things. Like, you could grab a Will Dissly, who now after 2 weeks looks like he's actually like worth owning in fantasy. You get rid of this shit and you pick up one of those guys. That makes the difference for some of these teams that really need depth. But you get rid of those 4 or 5 guys. IR the 2 guys that are on IR. Get yourself some more space and fill your roster with dudes that actually have potential to score points and see how it goes. Jakeem Graham absolutely should be activated, and or at least demote some of these. Like, if you don't want to cut Simmy Cobbs, or you don't want to cut Wadley or whatever his name is, fucking demote them and bring up the guys that are scoring points. Sorry, that's my rant, because there's a couple of teams that do that, and I'm not sure. There's really no point. There's really not. Just manage your team. Some of these guys and lady that have 5 or 6 inactive players.
Yeah. All right, so let's
we talked about Targaryen and Fell. That's Boulware and Hightower. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one because Boulware didn't have Mariota, so no quarterback. He's still starting Chad Williams. I think last week I said, who the fuck's Chad Williams? Still started him. Look at those results by Chad Williams, same as last week. And then Mike Gesicki, 1.8. He was the other tight end I was talking about. So I'm starting him thinking that they're going to get points from him. It is not going to happen. Rookie tight end people, you want points for a tight end, go buy the old veteran that's going to give you a couple good weeks here and there, unless you have an elite one. Otherwise, there's no point. Look at the other rookies. Dallas Goedert, not scoring any points. Hayden Hurst is still hurt. I think, what's-his-face, Andrews got a touchdown, but other than that, I mean, I don't think he was targeted heavily or had massive yards or anything. I think he had like a 3-yard touchdown. So if you're going to bank on 3-yard touchdowns from a rookie every blue moon, probably not the best idea in tight end. But yeah, so Boulware got steamrolled. Still put up 73 points though. But I hope to God they get Chad Williams out of your freaking lineup. Put somebody else in there. Tywan Taylor sitting there had 12 points. Not many options at tight end, but there are teams that have tight ends out there that are selling them, or teams that have like 4 or 5 tight ends. Go get a tight end. I don't know, tell you, but good news for Boulware is you will have Carson Wentz back next week. So hopefully Mariota plays next week, and he'll have 2 quarterbacks, and the roster will fill out a little bit better for him. Hightower not going to spend a whole lot of time on. Looks like he started all the wrong players again this week. As he did in week 1, but still scored enough points to win, which I think is what we said. He probably now has a couple of weeks where he doesn't have to get the lineup set up right until about week 4 or 5. And then once that rolls in, he's got to figure out who he's starting. But a lot of guys on his bench outscored the players that he put in his starting lineup. So that's one of those things. If you can't make the decision, trade these guys off. Some of these are hard. Like, I don't think you're starting Tavon Austin.
You're not starting
any
Tavon
week
Austin.
regardless. But Robert Woods is a maybe. Marshawn Lynch is a maybe. Theo Riddick, you probably spot start depending on matchups. But again, I'm probably Theo Riddick's biggest fan. I think you know that. I take a lot of shit for drafting and trading for Theo Riddick in just about every league. But yeah, so we'll see. This is another one. Pierre Garcon's in the fucking starting lineup. No clue why. If you look at any kind of thing, like any kind of rankings, any type of show, any type of fantasy point, fantasy production, look at the finish from last year. Robert Woods outscores fucking Pierre Garcon. Play Robert Woods over Pierre Garcon every fucking week, no matter what. Anyways, moving on to that one, unless you want something to talk about. This next one was really not surprising, but really close game. I thought Cockshaw was going to win this one. I think I did pick Cockshaw. So this might have been – I think I lied earlier when I said Reed was the only one that I picked that lost. I think I picked Cockshaw. He lost. Crowell let him down. Really not too many options for him to start. He started all the right players. Fournette injury probably killed him. If he has Fournette, he probably has a chance to take the win here. Fitzpatrick put up another big week for him.
I mean, in your defense, Tyrell's team did turn over about 80% from when we made our picks to when the games actually started. So
yeah,
I'll give you the pass on that one.
Yeah. Matt Ryan had a hell of a fantasy week. Chris Thompson. I'm glad. I like Chris Thompson. I have him in doubles. Eric wasn't really thrilled about the trade that I made to get Chris Thompson, but he's a player I really like. I had him. I had him and Jerick McKinnon here, and I think I moved both of them to you separate times over the course of the year last year. They've since moved on from you. Jerick McKinnon might still be there. But, again, Chris Thompson's kind of running back alike. Theo Riddick, Jerick McKinnon, all kind of in that same category. I like those guys. So I'm happy that he was able to get Fell to give up Chris Thompson, get him out of our division. So that's 20 points that would have been on Fells that is no longer there. Running back play or wide receiver play was exceptional. Jordan Reed kind of was a letdown. But Tyrell did spend $900-some on Will Dissly at tight end. A little interesting considering he has Jordan Reed, Jack Doyle, Cameron Brate has done absolutely nothing this year. Well, that's a huge fantasy surprise. I didn't see that coming. And then has Will Dissly. So just some interesting moves there for him this week. Maybe we'll talk about those. Probably not because we're running out of time. Faceless and Iron Bank. I think this was 3 Iron Banks last week. Faceless is 1-1. Yes.
Yeah.
So 1-1.
The next thing I control the SSN Jordan region based off of the map that Malicer's been putting together. Definitely a closer game than I was expecting. Quarterbacks kind of let me down, and Fitzgerald disappeared and maybe hurt. So this is why you build depth because looking at my team, I'm out of probably 3 backs I was planning to count on. And 2 receivers I was planning to count on. So, we'll see what I had to put together for next week to try and beat Santi. But, this is why depth matters too.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Matt, there really is not that many starts that I'd have done differently. I do think, though, that I told him last week, why the fuck are you not starting Jack Doyle? He made that switch. And Austin Hooper went off for 16 points. That probably would have been enough. It would have been enough to give him the win. So if you listen to me on that one, I apologize greatly. Other than that, I can't remember if Trubisky had a couple interceptions or something. There was a while where I thought, okay, he's got a chance, and then Trubisky just kind of shit the bed on him.
First drive, Trubisky was going to make it happen, and then he threw 2 picks in the first half, and it's like, okay, I'm okay here.
Yeah, so that was probably a nice little sigh of relief. Santagar over Sand Snakes. No surprises here. I think we all picked Santagar. I don't know why we wouldn't. I don't think you can even touch Sand Snakes. Sand Snakes also didn't have Julio Jones. We made that pick. So I don't think you can pick Sand Snakes as a winner until Bell's back because the rest of this team is just bad. So yeah, 0-2 for Sand Snakes.
By the way, you've got a moment while I'll introduce the next one if you want to jump over to GMs real fast and push the trade through.
God damn it. Did he only start? Who the fuck is this? I already addressed this one. Payne only started 7. Yeah, go ahead. I'll jump over.
Yeah, I'll jump to the end here. Looking at Lannister versus Casterly, again, Lannister won by about 50, and this is just the mind-numbing situation here. We keep saying, Lannister, you got to get the second quarterback. You got to get a second quarterback. Well, shit, if you're going to have 3 receivers put up 25 points, you don't need a second quarterback. That in and of itself, plus Carr, was enough to beat Casterly. So not a lot to touch on there. Casterly's finding himself in a worse and worse situation with Burkhead potentially missing time. I think Ajayi had to leave the field for some injury, and then Mixon obviously has been well documented. So even though he gets Wentz back, definitely looks like he's going to be in the building phase for a little bit here. Lannister looks like he's on path to go 3-0 again in this division. He's already gotten one over Banefort. He's got Payne next week, who's definitely a builder. So again, could go 3-0 here and have a game up on the King. So again, it's going to be a path for Baneford to get that back.
Yeah. And if Lannister wants to stay a game up, there's got to be a move made. He's got to buy a quarterback. There's a couple teams. I think White Walkers has 4. There's some other people that have 3. There's another team that I think has 4. Cockshaw I think has 4. He's got to buy a quarterback, or he's at least got to buy a running back. He has to do something. If he sits here and sits on his, I think he has his full slate of picks 1 through 5. Yeah, he's got Braida on his bench. Duke Johnson's done absolutely nothing for him. Duke Johnson needs to come out of his lineup. Probably put Matt Braida in next week. But I'm not sure that that's a guy you can count on to get the kind of running back production. He could be. I don't know. He's kind of a tiny dude. So I'm not 100% sure. But he needs to do something. Like, he either needs to buy one or both. If he can, I don't think he can, but he needs to make up his mind. Like, he either needs to go get that running back, or he needs to go get a quarterback, and he needs to do it now while he has a lead, hold on the lead here. Because really, Baneford's team is really solid, and if there's any kind of window left open for Baneford, he's going to pass Lannister, and Lannister's not going to be able to catch him because Baneford's got the 2 quarterbacks. He's got the 3 or 4 really good stud players. The tight end figured out, the wide receivers figured out, and so it's a really strong team. And so while he's ahead, he's going to stay ahead because, again, Lannister, I think, has been a playoff team all 3 years, or all 2 years, and then should be one this year. But with the seeding and the home field advantage, like, that's a real big deal. And I think in the years past, he's been on the negative side of the home field advantage. If he can get the home field advantage, I think that would really help him out in where he's deficient against some of these better teams on paper.
All right, I think that's everybody.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll blow through these like super duper quick. The matchups for next week. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on who should start or who should be, but we're just going to kind of go through and pick based off of what's in here. First one is Reed and Bolton. I've got to think that Reed wins at some point. I want to say the same thing as last week. He has the 2 really good quarterbacks. The rest of the team needs figured out, but Bolton's horrible, so I'm going House Reed.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, House Reed, just because Bolton's rebuilding and will continue to help himself rebuild.
I mean, we'll put it for this, Jeremy. Bolton is starting Alfred Blue, Cole Beasley, Alan Hearns, and only has 1 quarterback. If you lose to this, you might as well just give up. Next matchup is Forrester and Stark. I think this would be Forrester straight across the board.
Next.
Tully and Mallister. This is going to be a really good one. Probably Kansas City's. I was going to say the first thing I want to check is where Mahomes is playing. So he's versus San Francisco.
This is Mallister.
Newton. Yeah, I like the quarterback matchup. Like Cam Newton has a really good matchup this week, I think. Yeah, Mallister for me, just based on the quarterbacks again. Brotherhood and Greyjoy, don't even spend time on it. Harding and Egan is Harding, don't spend time on it. Royce, we got a lot of these this week. Jesus. Royce and Baelish, don't spend time on it. That's Royce. So that's 3 or 4 teams that have an easy slam dunk win this week, so just mail that in. Children and Night's Watch, probably another mail it in, but never want to sleep on somebody. Like, anything can happen. But probably Children across the board here. White Walkers are free folk. I think if I had to, without even looking, just looking at the numbers, I would pick free folk. But you are right that he is in a really weird spot. I think Rodgers comes back into the lineup against Washington. Probably does really well. Breeze in Atlanta, it'll be a shootout. Peterson, Powell, I'll go with you because I think you're going to lead the upset here. I'm going to go with the upset too. I'm going to pick White Walkers.
Yep, that's my thought.
Myself and Targaryen, just for selfish reasons, I have to pick myself. Right now, it's an 11-point spread. over Targaryen over myself. But I've subbed out some of the guys. I subbed out Alex Collins. I subbed out Robert Woods. I subbed out somebody else. I've gotten a little pretty this week. I'm hoping it doesn't bite me in the ass. And I'm hoping it pays off in a big way. I've got Giovanni Bernard in there this week with the Mixon injury, so I'm hoping that there's a touchdown in there somewhere maybe. I think that'd be awesome. I've had enough of watching Deshaun Jackson score 20 fucking points, 30 fucking points on my bench every week, so he's going in. And then, of course, I got Ebron going in as well. So those are my switch-ups there. So I'm hoping that those three changes, they're not projected as many points as my other guys, but I'm hoping that those changes, if they do what they've been doing, if they stay hot, I think it's going to be close.
Look, I'm cheering for you. I'm terrified from the fact that we have to play you guys this year. Like I said, I think there's a bit of a change in the guard going on in Fire. I think definitely Storm and Crown is a tough division, if not the toughest division this year. And this is a game that's going to decide that or go a long way to doing so. Look, I think Gordon may have some trouble against the Rams. I think other than that, though, this is going to be a matter of it's going to be a race to 150. And I don't see how you get there, to be honest.
I'll get there.
So
I think my quarterback projections are a little low. If I could pick up another 2 or 3 points from each of my quarterbacks, ideally I'd like 20 from each of them and put me at 40, and then I'd just go 10, 15 the other way, with one person blowing up, because that's what I've been getting. I think I match up nicely with Targaryen. Again, like you said, Gordon's got the quarterback plays are kind of the quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks all 4 quarterbacks are all in the same tier. So I think the quarterback play hopefully will all cancel out. Melvin Gordon has a bad matchup. I'm hoping I can steal a touchdown. Miller hasn't scored a touchdown either, which pissed me off. So I'm hoping that I could steal a touchdown at running back somewhere. I haven't had one yet. Hoping to steal one. And then the rest of it that's really funny is he has Diggs, I have Thielen. He has Evans, I have Deshaun Jackson. So, those wide receivers are going to score points. It's just going to be a matter of which ones. Both of them, for the first 2 weeks, it's been both. Both wide receivers on both those teams have been scoring. So either that's going to keep up, or it's going to be one guy gets off and the other guy doesn't. So we'll see. Hopefully those are mine. And then I think what really helped him last week was Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins has been relatively quiet for the last year and a half, probably longer. He exploded against the Steelers. I'm not sure that I think San Francisco's defense is it has to be better than the Steelers. I don't know where they're ranked. I don't know if they're good. I haven't watched them, but it has to be better than the Steelers. I'll leave it at that.
Let me give people a 49ers tip here. Richard Sherman still has a little bit, and if he can't keep up with Hill, but he can at least maybe slow him down. Ahkello Witherspoon got smoked all over the field last week. So unless somehow he has a Freaky Friday type experience, Sammy Watkins is a very safe play.
Alrighty then. Holy shit, James Conner is projected 29.27 points. That's a ridiculous amount of points.
He's still got Mixon in his lineup here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Deshaun Jackson has to get into this lineup somewhere. I'm not sure Rich Freeman's in there. Sheesh. I think they both need to set lineups. Tinker with their lineups. Yeah, probably. Unless that lineup gets changed. I'm not sure it does. But if Swan changes some of these, Benjamin needs to go, Garcon needs to go, and if you can replace it with something, at least Sanders, there needs to be another piece bought, but yeah, it probably fell. Tyrell and Hightower is a lot more appealing than what it was before. Tyrell set his lineup for this week. I probably am as well. Looking at matchups, David Johnson's against Chicago. Good luck. I'm
benching Johnson everywhere I've got him. There's no way.
Yeah. Dion is versus Jacksonville. Good luck. Yeah, good luck. That's all I gotta say about that. Bullware and Cockshaw. I think this is two Cockshaws. Not gonna spend time on it.
The one thing I will say real quick here, it's funny if you look at the receivers for Cockshaw, Adams is against the number 1 strength of schedule, Fuller against 2, and Thomas against 3. So I haven't seen that before.
That is funny. But that's the New York Giants. I don't know if their defense has been good. Eli's been so bad I haven't fucking paid attention to the rest of the team.
Well, they played Jacksonville and they played Dallas, not two exactly.
Okay, yeah, not to really like burn them up. Next one is yourself, the Iron Bank versus House Sanagar. I think this is everybody would be picking Iron Bank. Don't really need to spend a whole lot of time on it, but it is your team, so we'll talk about it. We'll go through it here.
I'm not feeling confident.
Matt Braida is in there. It is, I think, a switch for you. I don't know who you benched to get Braida in there, but I would imagine it was somebody.
Well, so I mentioned it until you're back, and frankly, I have no confidence in offense until Bradford is benched. And again, I don't feel confident in this because, again, Brady and Breeze have shown they can put up 20. They've shown they can put up 12. So that could end up being a push at quarterback. Barkley, who knows what happens there. Hopefully Braida gets caught up in a shootout with Kansas City. But I could see this easily tilting Sankey's way if things don't happen. So
I don't know. I think I'm going to pick you. I don't think Ricky Seals-Jones is going to score any points. Decent talent. We'll have a couple good weeks. I don't think it's going to be this week against Chicago. T.Y. Hilton against Philly, I don't think is going to be that great. We've seen Amari Cooper. He's hit or miss against Miami. He's probably going to be a miss. Miller and Collins haven't done much. And then I like your quarterbacks over what he's got here. Dalton Dalton being the exception there. Dalton's the one that can put up points and change this matchup. But I really think that Carolina-Cincy game is going to be a rout in Carolina's favor. I don't know what Carolina is on the season. I know they lost at least once, maybe twice. But I think the Cincinnati game's a game they have to win. I think they're going to come in. It's at home. Cincinnati played on Thursday night, so they've been off for a while. I think they'll be a little slow to start. I think Carolina will jump on them. So I like the matchups for you, and your team's better. So take that for what it's worth. Faceless and Sand Snakes. I think I said earlier I'm not picking Sand Snakes until Bell comes back. One quarterback against two. LaShawn McCoy has the fractured rib or potentially fractured rib. It's been absolutely terrible. Haven't watched Green Bay play, so I'm not really sure if Jamal Williams is startable or not startable. But the fact that he has to start Jamal Williams is probably not a good sign. Again, really weird. Kenny Golladay is on this fucking bench. I don't know why. I think Kenny Golladay has to find a way into the starting lineup and is a must start until he cools off. He's another one of those guys that has been playing really well.
I agree it's Faceless. Williams, I agree, needs to get out because it's the week that Jones comes back, and I think the only way that Williams stays in is in that pass blocking role because he is far better at it than Jones is.
Yeah. I'm looking here. The rest of Faceless. Yeah, I'm going to pick Faceless. I think I said that already. So, yeah, Faceless over Sand Snakes.
No, that's Dunks too.
Lannister over Payne, I think that's an easy one, and Bainford over Cashley, I think is an easy one. So other than that, I don't know how long it's been. We probably have to wrap it up, unless you want to real quickly run over some teams that are 2-0.
No, it's real quick and just
or 0-2 or 1-1, or teams that you think are going in the wrong direction or right direction, or somebody you're worried about or not worried about, or whatever you want to do.
I'm just
in regards to the standings.
I'll spend 2 minutes on trades. So real quick, like we mentioned, Tyrell turned over his team. He made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 trades between the Thursday the 13th and Saturday the 15th. So when we say turned over his entire team, we're not joking. Again, he does this every year, and I don't know how he keeps pulling this off, but good for him. He transitions to picks and high profile guys in not profile, but like high upside guys in the off season, and then like right before they become in vogue, and then transitions those guys into producers for the season and does well. So again, I'm not sure how people haven't caught on to this yet, but agree. I think he started off real well, giving up some producers for better running backs. Moved Coleman a couple of times, got him back, moved him again, and improved his starters there. I think he completely wrecked Payne, getting Ryan and Lindsey for Trubisky and MVS. A first for Chris Thompson, considering the situation, is very good, especially considering his grade choice and likely will be in the 13 or 14 range. The Bolton deal just upsets me because I was working a similar deal with a different receiver for him, and let's just say I was asking for more than that, and it's not a receiver probably of the Julio caliber. Miller and Jones, again, I think that's where this starts going off the rails for him. I don't see why you go and get Marvin Jones when you've got Lamar Miller. I would rather have Miller at this point, especially with Jones looking to be the odd man out in Detroit. And then he's able to flip Julio for Royce and Jarvis. I mean, come on, guys. So I think he did really well for himself. I think he won 8 of the 9 of these, or 7 of the 9 of these. But, he does this every year, and it pisses me off every time he does it because he'll come and say, hey, I want this player. I'll say no and ask for something, and then someone who sweats that player gives it to him for 60 cents on the dollar. So thanks, guys.
I'm not even 60 cents. Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know. He does do this, and it tends to work out for him in the long run. But it's one of those things like he's going to sell this team off at the end for draft picks. Like, if you just hold on to the damn draft picks, you can sell the draft picks for like whatever the fuck. It's basically there's a couple month period in this league where those draft picks you can sell for literally whatever you want. And so, like, if he just did it that way, it would get rid of the nonsense that he goes throughout the week here of knocking on everybody's doors for PMs. But it's one of those things where and he's done it numerous times now, where I think when he really pulls the wool over somebody, instead of just taking the hit on that deal and fucking making it an even trade, he pulls the wool over on him, knows he pulls the wool over on him. People call him on it, and then he goes out and makes a bad trade in where he loses on that player. He's done that a number of times now. I'm trying to think of other players that he's done that for, but he's done that a couple times on guys where he's bought them so cheaply, and it's one of those things where it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're better than that. Like, don't fuck the dude over. Like, that there's no way in hell that Bolton should have been adding on to Julio Jones for that package that you sent him. There's no way. So to even ask is ridiculous. And so then when he gets called on it, he goes, oh, okay, I'll lose on the Julio deal and I'll trade him for this. I know that I think some people like Royce Freeman. I don't. I think it's going to be a clusterfuck in Denver, especially. And I thought it was going to be a clusterfuck in Denver before Lindsey even broke out. So now he broke out. There's 3 dudes there that are going to get – they're all going to get touches. Some might get some less, but it's not like one of those – Royce Freeman is not that like a guy where you can turn and go, here you go, Barkley, here's the ball 40 times. He's just not. And so for that reason, I can't have him at a 103 or a 102 or a 104 or whatever. He's just a late first for me because he doesn't have like a major role. He's if he's hot, he gets it. If he's not, he's not. And to me, that's not worth a whole lot. It's worth something, but it's not worth a whole lot where a lot of other people have him. So I'd rather have Julio over Landry and whoever. So I think you had him winning that trade. I think I have him losing that one. I think I have him losing. There was another trade that he made.
Well, I see Jamal Williams losing his job. So Freeman may not be the every down guy everyone hoped he would be, but at the end of the day, he's better than a guy who is in a 3-way timeshare.
Right, but I think I'd rather have Julio over Landry by like a pretty good margin. So maybe that's where that one is for me.
Yeah, and that's where I disagree. I think at the end of the year,
um,
Landry's over Julio. So either way.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where I think Julio can win you a week. I don't think Jarvis Landry is. Jarvis Landry is going to consistently get you enough points where he's going to be a top scorer. But, like, Julio's going to have those weeks where Julio scores, like, 3 touchdowns. And I don't think you're going to get that with Landry. And for that, I kind of – they'll finish about the same in the scoring at the end of the year, but I'd rather have, like, the couple weeks where, like, Julio feasted and solely got me the win to cover, my team. But, yeah, it does feel like there are a couple of things. And I don't know why people do it because they know he's coming. And it was one of those things, like, we were joking around with him today. Like, yeah, it was really bugging me really hard about one player. And so I messaged the other guy. I was like, Gil, are you getting bugged about this guy? And I said, because I don't like this trade. I'm not doing this. And he's bugging me and he's putting pressure that you're putting pressure on him. And I was like, it's not happening, is it? No. So it's one of those things where you just need to, like, talk it out and think, like, before you trade with him. Some of the trades are decent. Some of them are like I said, it's like, why are we adding on to these? And I think he's kind of took advantage of Bolton not knowing Dynasty as much as probably the other people, or not knowing what he had. But there definitely should not have been an add-on there. But at the end of the day, there's really nothing you can do about that other than just be better. But it is weird because I've been trying to buy Jared Cook from Bolton, and have been trying to pay what probably marketplace price is. Like, I know trying to buy him after he scored 25 points week 1, probably not the best idea, but I try to buy him again this week. And even though he's on the trade beat, it doesn't seem like he's really intent on selling Jared Cook. Like, he wants King's ransom for Jared Cook. I'm like, where the fuck was this backbone on Julio Jones? So it's twice now with players that he's decided to sell. Well, 3 different players, actually. So he sold Baldwin really low, he sold Julio really low, and he sold Marlon Mack really low. And I started to talk about this, and I'll talk about it forever because it's just the strategies and what goes on in my head. And this is one of those things where all the rebuilders here have only picked one rookie around what they've rebuilt. All the rest of it is trading picks. He's acquired a lot of picks. You need veteran players on the team to build around. And even if you weren't competitive this year, you're better off with the 3 picks than having the 4 picks and still having a Marlon Mack and a Julio and a Doug Baldwin. You just are. Because no one goes into this going, okay, well, by the time Julio Jones is irrelevant, my team might finally be able to compete. You're still – I don't know how old Julio Jones is, but he's still probably playing for 5 years, would be my guess. I have to look and see how old he is.
I'll take the under on that.
I have to look.
I'll say if he's still fantasy relevant in 2 years, I'll be surprised.
Julio, he's not even on Tyrell. Where did he go?
He's on Samsung's now.
Unbelievable.
We talked about this.
Yeah, it's just like merry-go-round. I saw Jones, and it wasn't the right Jones. 29. So, yeah, I mean, there's a chance. He's probably not as fantasy relevant, but he's still going to be there. But I don't know how many people are in the window of where they're like, okay, my team will be relevant in 5 years. I don't think anybody in this league is playing with that mindset, if that makes sense. Like, everybody else is like, my rebuild's going to take a year, or my rebuild's going to take 2. And, like, you're better off with having Julio next year or in 2 years than you are with having whatever you got back. And in this case, he got back 2 players. But, I mean, they could be down the road better, but it's one of those things like, you're better off with some of these pieces and buying some and keeping your studs and keeping these things, unless you get the king ransom for them, unless you get, like, you sell Saquon Barkley and get 3 or 4 picks and a player, or you sell trying to think of who was sold for a shit ton and essentially got his whole lineup. So, yeah, you can sell your studs, but you got to sell high on them. You can't sell them short. That's not going to help you in the long run. That only makes the rebuild longer. Then we've seen that with a couple of teams now, and now Bolton's going down that path. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody else does.
We've been talking too long. Let's wrap it up.
Yes, we're done. I don't have anything else. Thanks for joining. Jeremy and Eric, maybe we'll get you next week. Maybe we'll never get you again. I don't know. Greyjoy had Hanukkah Day tomorrow, something, Rosh Hashanah or whatever, so he couldn't join us today. But go good luck in week 3, everybody, and see you next time.
Peace.